Hi, this is Mitch Easter, and you're listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Chip Taylor is best known as a songwriter for both Wild Thing and Angel of the Morning. But there's so much more to him than just those two songs. He's written hundreds of songs, including I Can't Let Go from the Hollies and Try a Little Harder from Janis Joplin, just to name two more. Taylor got his start in a rockabilly group, Wes Voight and the Town 3, who were signed to a subsidiary of King Records all the way back in 1958.
I'm ready to, I'll go steady, this time I won't let her mama win.
And Taylor's been on a hot streak as of late, releasing an average of an album a year. He's also issued several critically acclaimed records with fiddle player Carrie Rodriguez. Now, his latest project is called A Song I Can Live With.
A song I can live with. Forever.
And to talk about it, we welcome to the show Chip Taylor. Chip, good to talk to you. How are you, man?
I'm good, Tony. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. So, you released not one but two albums. I mean, one I think you called a mini album, but still two albums last year. So I don't imagine, that this was something, your intention to go right back in and record another one, right? This kind of just sort of happened organically.
Yeah, well, none of these, the recent influx of inspiration wasn't planned, and nothing's been planned. But yeah, it was just like I finished those, and I liked them a lot. I like the Little Brothers album. The other mini album was the one I was inspired by two golfing girls from Canada, and I love that little album. And it just all of a sudden I had another, it goes in spurts sometimes. They just it's been a 5-year spurt.
Right.
So I all of a sudden had a bunch of songs, and I talked to the fellow I work with, Joran Greeny from Norway, and I sent the songs. So I said, should we wait or what? He said, let's do them now. He loved them, so we decided to do them, and here they are.
Nice. Now, was there one particular song that you wrote and you were kind of like, okay, now it's time to do an album kind of thing? I mean, was that one that was there one song that sort of kind of started the project off?
I could, maybe in past times I might say something like that, but this was a burst of energy that included the first cut, Crazy Girl, and then Until It Hurts, and then all the rest of them came quick, New York in between, and Hey Lou, and all that. The one that came the last of the whole group was, and it's kind of a nice story, is the title, A Song I Can Live With. Because I was telling my wife, she said, how's the album coming? I said, pretty good, Joan, and I think it's kind of inspired and good. And she said, do you have a title? I said, yeah, I think so. I think we're going to call it Until It Hurts. and she said, you what? I said, I think we're going to call it Until It Hurts. There's a nice song called that. And she says, does that reflect the spirit of the whole album? Is this a depressing album? And I said, no, it's not depressing. He said, well, it sounds depressing to me. So that night, and as we grow older, she would rather hear positive songs, and I can understand that.
Right.
And so I felt a little bad that she didn't like that title, and I kind of agreed with her after talking to her. And that night I wrote a song I Can Live With, which is a tribute to her. And I love this song.
As I pick up this old guitar, let feelings dance in my head. Let me write a song I can live with. And Lord, I'd prefer.
And I'm glad I did it.
Nice, yeah.
That was the only addition to the
Okay, all right. So, and you liked it so much that it's actually on the inside. There's a little lyric on the inside, too, of, You know, I mean, I like that. You know, Lord, I'm asking you a favor, kind of thing. It sounds like a little prayer, a little writer's prayer. You know, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's praying to the Lord to give him to get a little inspiration to write a good song for my wife.
Right, right. A positive song, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's cool. So you talked about Joran, your producer. This guy's in Norway. So how did you?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's a little bit of a ways away. How did you initially?
Well, you know, it's wonderful. You know, I went to see Eric Clapton the other day, and I saw all the wonderful musicians he has intact, and I was just thinking about the blessings that certainly he has, but the blessings that I have over the years to have been playing with such wonderful characters that fit my soul as well as the spirit, and are brilliant musicians. I mean, you know, to be all these years with John Platania, playing with him since the 70s, and recording with him, and having him by my side on the stage most of the time, I said, what a blessing that is, one of the all-time soulful guitar players. And then I met Joran Greenie back about 5 years ago. I needed a keyboard player for a particular album that I was putting out, and somebody recommended him, and I met him, and immediately I connected with him. He's so brilliant, keyboard player, but his soul also fits mine, you know, and we just could work well together. And he's humble, has a humble way of adding things, and he's a wonderful producer in the most beautiful sense of producing, where somebody's not overdoing it to make people like something. He's trying to get inside the song and let the song be what it can be. So he and I work together producing, and I love just hanging out with him and John, and it's a good thing.
Nice. Now, does he actually come over for the sessions, or are you sending stuff over to Norway?
Well, that's a good question. Like today, I will talk to him on the phone in probably about 2 hours, and we'll go back and forth, and I'll send him some of the new material I have, maybe one song for something he's doing over there with another artist, but some new songs I have for my possible next album. And he'll listen to them over there and maybe make little sketches on them to see if I think that they're in the right direction. And then usually what will happen is we'll record it in my little studio in Mamaroneck. I'll fly over here, and we'll record like the piano and the guitar and the voice, and do the songs in that minimalistic way, and then add a little bit to it. So now sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes we'll end up in Halden, Norway, and recorded a beautiful studio there. I mean, a very, very great studio there called Athletic Sound. I've done a couple of records there, and usually if I do that, then it's having a band there play. So I'm not sure what we can do now, but it's in and out of playing with the band, and in and out of playing with Joran coming over here or me going over there. Nice.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, you know, and it's nice to have that sort of modern technology that you can kind of send stuff over.
Yeah, you know. It is. I'm not the best at it, but I'm not bad at it. You know, right. I can, every day when I'm working, at least I have a plate. You know, back when I wrote "Angel of the Morning" or "Wild Thing" or those things, there was no mini tape recorder around to save my ideas. I had to sing them over and over again to myself, and then get in the studio as quick as possible to record them in some manner to remember them. A lot of the time, I just sang them to myself over and over, and would remember that way.
Right.
But at least these days, when I get an idea, and I'm a stream of consciousness writer, I'm looking for just a chill of any kind, and I don't really care if the chill comes from anything that makes any sense or not. I don't care. I'm just looking for the chill. And if I start something and something sounds magical to me, I want to be able to save it as quick as possible. I want to be able to just play it over again right away and press a button and save it. And that's what I'm able to do now. And, you know, very few things get away from me that if something is coming to me, I'll be able to in some manner save it so I can listen that again and at least have that saved so that I can go from there, and that's a blessing for me.
Right, absolutely. Now, if we're looking at the cover of the new disc, there is a rather old photo. You've got a hat on and your guitar in hand, and this looks like maybe 1970s kind of thing.
Yeah, 74. My wife Joan and myself.
All right. So that dates back a little ways, kind of thing. So
yeah. I love this. I love this package. And yeah, so it's wonderful. These are minimalistic things, and it's kind of and there's obviously not going to be a hit song on here. You know, there may be a song that means something. I mean, it depends what you call a hit, but there may be something that means something to a lot of people. There may be a song or two like that, and certainly some of these mean something to me and to other folks. But that being said, they're some of my favorite recordings, and it's been going on now since for the last 5 years or so, after all the Perfect People, and then Block Out the Sirens of This Lonely World, and then the Little Prayers trilogy, which is probably the biggest album I've had in a long time, and they're just simple little things. 3-disc set, and then Little Brothers, and then with refugee children in there, and this group now. So I love playing these songs. I just got back from touring Sweden and Norway and did a show in Austin, Texas, all based on the new album. And that's a nice thing to be able to play for fans who, you know, it's a funny thing when you think back, because I watched Eric Clapton the other day, and he was playing all his hits, and that's nice. That's a really nice thing. And I don't have the kind of hits he did because I didn't have any recordings myself that were very big, but I've got some songs that were very big. But the thing that is so nice, and my wife saw it when I went over to Sweden and Norway and played, people didn't care if I played the hits right. They wanted to hear these songs. You know?
Nice.
That's what made the difference.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Well, you got fans of you, and they just want to see
right.
you, and that's you know, that's important. So, well, let me
Yeah,
ask you about.
I don't have as many as Eric Clapton.
Well, sure, no. Well, not many do. I mean, my gosh,
that was funny. I looked around, and I was sitting in the balcony area overlooking the thing. I said, "Oh my God, look at this!" I said, if I was playing this show, I'd have that small little quadrant over there come to see me. Maybe
well, you know, I mean,
people.
you know, you can look at that from all kinds of different angles. You know, at the same time, when you come to see Chip Taylor, it's an intimate show, right? Where probably even the person in the very back feels like he's still part of things. The person at an Eric Clapton concert in the very back may not even be able to see anything. You know what I mean? So there's, you know.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said that. I feel better.
I'm just trying to make. Well, let me ask you about a couple of songs from some of the record. Until It Hurts is interesting.
Climb the wooden stairs to the 3rd floor. Put the earbuds in my ears. Get on the treadmill. And listen to a collage of our love and pain. Turn the numbers up again and again till it hurts.
Because, I mean, you're on a treadmill, you know, and then all of a sudden you start mentioning David Bowie. It's like, it does seem like stream of consciousness, and I read that's, you know, kind of some of the songwriting you're doing now is sort of stream of consciousness kind of thing. What can you tell me about it?
Well, it is. I've always been that kind of a writer. I mean, I never try to write a song so that people would like it. I wrote a song so I would like it, and the only way I would like it is if something flowed out of me that I couldn't quite identify and it felt good to me, then I could, you know, just try to make some sense of it. But and that what I would say is the way I wrote most of the time. But with this stuff, with a song like Until It Hurts, it's just coming from an act, you know, from total honest emotions. All these songs are, and I'm having a rough day, and I'm walking to the gym, my local gym, and in the start of the song, and it's a cold New York day, and I'm not even wearing a T-shirt. I don't care. I want to feel the cold wind. I want to feel the pain. And I get to the gym, and I walk up the stairs, and I put the earphones on, earbuds in my ears, and I get on the treadmill, and that's exactly what I would do. And I listen to a collage of our love and pain, and turn the numbers up again, till it hurts, and that's just actual. And then it happened to be the day after David Bowie had died, and I talk about that, and talk about Lou Reed, his relationship with that, and my kind of connection to them in a certain way.
Right. Yeah.
and it just goes on with that, and it's just a spirit, and it's just a little glimpse of what's going on with me that day, and I like it a lot.
Right. Well, what's interesting, there's a very earthy feel to this. I mean, when I was listening to that particular song, I heard a siren on that song, and it was like, okay, I thought that was a siren outside my house. Then I played it back, and I'm like, no, that's on the record.
Good for you.
That's
Good for you.
So
yeah. Yeah, that's a New York siren.
Right. Authentic there. Right. So, I noticed that you've got a couple of songs, a New York In Between and Young Brooks Flow Forever. They share some of the same verses.
She looked into the camera and pursed her lips together. Looked out on forever. No, hallelujah.
Was that something where you couldn't decide and you decided to make two out of one kind of thing?
It's like, that's a very, very good question. And I don't think I've ever done that before. I mean, it wasn't something I planned on doing. It's the song started, and it's inspired by a relationship, and as it went on, it drifted into another spirit of another girl that I knew, and another relationship, and it kind of drifted over to that and came back, and there was an intertwining. That's in New York In Between. So there was an intertwining of that emotion, and then I loved that verse so much. She looked into the camera and pursed her lips together and looked out on forever and said, "Oh, hallelujah." And it's just such a beautiful thing to me. That's exactly what I looked at when I looked at this photograph of this young woman. And so that became part of New York In Between. And then I went back and played that verse again and then took it into the spirit of the other girl and let it follow her a little bit. And then I decided that what the heck, I like them, and I'm going to put them right next to each other.
Right.
It's okay with me. Probably if somebody else will say, "What's this? I heard this song before."
Right. No, I mean, I had to do a double take. I'm like, wait, well, this is the, and then you start singing different lyrics. I'm like, okay, all right, we're at a different song now. So, all right.
Right.
Nice. Little Angel Wings.
That's the 54th Street Rec Center, built in 1911. Up on the 4th floor, getting closer to heaven. Got a 1940s basketball court, running track above. If that don't warm your heart, son, you ain't been in love.
You mentioned watching you and learning. I mean, even as we get older, we can learn, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love this song. And I did a little humble video of it that I'm not sure I'm going to release because I look so terrible. I hadn't slept for 3 days when I did it. But heck, I think I'm going to release it anyway because the song is such a charming little video of this spirit. The song takes place in the same. I talk about, and until it hurts, I walk to the health club around my block, and in that health club, it's an old health club. It was built in 1911. And in New York City, by the city built it for the poorer people to have something to do and have a place to swim and stuff like that. And that's where I go. That's my place where I go to my gym. But up on the top floor, they have this basketball court. That I remember these things when I was growing up as a little kid, where you had a basketball court with wooden backboards and a running track above it. And a wooden running track above it, and that's the way a lot of the gyms were built back in the 40s. And this gym has that, and I'm watching as I go there to work out, and then go upstairs to look over and saw this coach coaching the kids in such a nice manner. And I used to coach my children and the neighborhood kids myself when I was growing up. And I loved watching him, and he was saying, "Isn't it a beautiful thing?" And my son's in there too a little bit, and he coaching his team. when somebody gives their time like that, and they do it with such an honest spirit, and that's what this guy did. It was such an honest spirit, and he was so charming playing with the kids. And my son is the same way, and the kids looking at him, just looking, couldn't wait to see what this person was going, how it was going to go. And it was such a beautiful little thing in the day for these kids. So I was just stopping, just enjoying it. So I wrote the song about this fella there.
Nice, and you get some help on that.
Yeah, my grandkids. Yeah.
Right. So you've got is that one of your grandkids playing flute? Is that right?
Yeah, Riley, the eldest girl, plays flute, and they're wonderful girls, and they've sung with me from time to time, and I really, it's one of my favorite things to do. In fact, when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, each artist had a chance to, or was asked to sing a song, and so when I sang some, Rachel Platten did "Angel of the Morning," and when they asked me if I would sing Wild Things, I said, "Yeah, I'll do it as if I can do it with my grandkids." And
Nice.
They took the house down.
Oh, that's great! Singing Wild Thing with your grandkids. That's got to be great. Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome.
And, it was wonderful folks were there that I didn't really know before. Elvis Costello, we bonded that night, and Diana Kroll and Lionel Richie and all those people, and they were all coming over to the grandkids saying, congratulating them and stuff. That was fun.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be, here you are getting inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I mean, that's got to be an honor, especially, like you said, when you're in such good company, hanging out with Elvis Costello, and what a great songwriter he is as well. So,
yeah, it was a wonderful thing to be there and to see these people, because I didn't know these people, because I hibernate. I don't go out and, hang out with famous people. So I met Elvis and Diana the first time, and Lionel, and see what a charming guy he was. And I used to be mad at him because I thought he left the Commodores, and back in the early days, and I was kind of mad at him for 30, 40 years. And then I found out that the Commodores didn't want him.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't that way at all.
Wow.
And he's a very, very nice fellow. He's
right.
a humble fellow. And then Tom Petty was the same way, just really warm and honest with his stuff. And in that spirit, it was a great night. And to be with my family in that spirit, and to tell the people in the audience, because each person got up that was inducted and told them where they came from, what was their story, how did they get in the music business. So I was very happy to tell all the people there that know me for some big hits that the reason I was in the business was not because of any kind of New York edgy kind of thing. It was like I was a country music fan from start to finish, and that's how I got in the business, from New York, listening to a Motorola radio to hear country music, and having that be the thing that inspired me to get in the business and have all my success at the start be country success, even though I ended up writing rhythm and blues hits and other things. And that was it. That's what I wanted people to remember.
Nice. Now, if we go back a minute, I mentioned at the top of the show that you were signed to like a subsidiary of King Records as Wes Voight. How did that come about? I mean, you're from New York. I mean, King Records in Cincinnati kind of thing. How did that come about?
Well, they had an office in New York.
Okay, all right.
And the person who was the head of the office was the legendary guy, Henry Glover, who signed Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, who wrote Sexy Ways with Hank, and who signed Little Willie John. He signed me. It was all black division. I was the only white person on the label, but he personally signed me. And the reason he did was because of the perseverance of my guitar player at the time, who took our demos and our photos and walked the city streets until somebody would see him. Henry saw him standing outside the door, and the secretary was about to turn him away, and Henry saw something in Greg, I guess, in a little spirit, and he said, "Come here, son, let me hear what you got." And in minutes, he was calling me on the phone saying I had a deal on King Records, and that's what got me into business. And I didn't sell enough records to make any noise then, but it got me in the business, and then from there, people started recording my songs, and so that was, if it wasn't for that, for my guitar player going to the city and walking the streets, I would never be where I got.
Right, right. And yeah, I mean, you actually had like little taste of things. I mean, you were in that duo Just Us, right? Isn't the
Yep.
you can't grow peaches on a cherry tree?
And I can't grow peaches on a cherry tree.
Yeah, it was a big hit.
So how did that come about? I mean, that was Cap Records. I mean, and
Yeah, what happened was that so I got after I had some success writing, I was signed to a company. I used to sell my songs for $30 a piece, and then once I started having some success, a company offered me a staff writing deal, which would pay me a salary for the year, and I didn't have to go run around selling my songs for $30. And the office, it was a wonderful, energetic place, and they call it the Brill Building era, and that's okay, but it really wasn't. One of the most important buildings was not the Brill Building. It was 1650 Broadway, where Jerry Goff and Carole King, Barry Mann, Juggy Murray, so many soulful folks were out of 1650, more than the Brill Building. And I I had my writing space there, and in that writing space was another fellow named Al Gorgoni, who was one of the great guitar players in New York, and he also was a good writer. And I heard one of the songs that he had just written, and I said, Al, I love that song. I said, let me produce that with you. I think I can make a good record with that. And so we got together and did it, and we sang together on it. He sang the lead, I sang harmony, and all of a sudden everybody wanted the record, and it became a big hit. It was released on a small label, but it sold over 500,000 copies. And we had a decision to make whether we become a group, because the group was called Just Us, and we wanted to tour, or did we want to stick around and in that era and just do our writing and producing there? And we chose not to go on the road, so we kind of aborted that career.
So if we go back to Wild Thing.
Wild thing, you make my heart sing.
I mean, that's obviously one of the songs you're known for, but it originally kind of sat around for a while. Was that how that worked?
Well, not too long. I wrote it one day. Somebody called me and asked me for a song. A producer, actually, was a songwriter too. And I never met him, and I was so flattered that he called me. That he said, "Can you send something over? I'm producing a group, and I heard you're doing some interesting rock and roll things." He said, "I know you're known as a country writer, but I heard you're doing some interesting rock and roll things. Can you send me something?" I was so flattered that he called. I said, his name was Jerry Granahan. I said, "Jerry," I said, "Geez, I'm so happy you called. Let me try to write something for you today." And so I wrote Wild Thing, and I recorded it. That it wasn't really quite finished until I got in the studio, and I just kind of finished it in the studio. Wasn't sure what I had, but I loved the feeling of it, and I sent it to him, and he did record it. But he changed the feel to make it more like a blues record, and a traditional blues record, and that's not what it felt. How the essence of the song was to me.
Right.
And then right after that, Larry Page, heard the demo and brought it over to when you know the story, and the boys heard it. So it sat around a little bit, but not that long.
Well, it was just
and
interesting.
Then the boys did it just like the demo.
Really?
And,
okay. All right.
Yeah, exactly like the demo, and it was so cool. I mean, I played acoustic guitar on the demo, and my engineer did the ocarina solo with his hands like a blade of grass kind of thing.
Right.
And so it was very, then the Trogs record was electric. Otherwise, it had exactly the same feel.
So even the ocarina solo was on the original demo. That was an idea you had. That's great.
Yeah. Actually, it was I don't want to take too much credit. We were playing it back, the demo. I just was working on the demo and played back the track, and my engineer started just doing that thing with his hands. And I said, "Ron," let me hum you a little melody, and let's try to put that in the instrumental, as in the open chords." And we did that. It was just a little overdub. It became such a signature solo, one of the great solos of all time. It's an ocarina, and So Reg Presley, when he went around, used to carry an ocarina in his pocket wherever he went.
I mean, I don't know many pop songs that have ocarinas on it, so that's kind of like one of those. It's the unique.
And Jimi Hendrix had never recorded it if the Trogs hadn't. I mean, Jimi Hendrix loved the Trogs record. He just flat out loved it, and he told his girlfriend that was his favorite thing that he'd heard back in that period of time. And and as he was becoming this huge star, he sang it at the end of all the shows.
Right. Yeah. It
was all because of Reg and the Boys.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've got a song that Jimi Hendrix recorded. You get a song Janis Joplin recorded. Not many right there. Not many songwriters can say that. So that's So you have a website where people can kind of keep track of what you're doing, right?
Yeah, there's a website. First of all, I'm on Facebook, and if you go to my band page on Facebook, that's where you can communicate with me.
Okay.
Say hello, and then if you that links up with the record label Trainwreck Records, and so that's my little record label. So if you can either Google Trainwreck Records but if you say Chip Taylor Facebook, the first thing that pops up should be my band page.
Okay, nice. Okay, yeah. And you said even more new music on the horizon, possibly then, right?
Yeah, I've got some songs. I was just telling my wife Joan. I said I think I've got a wonderful spirit for my next record. I said, and I'm very anxious to do it. And it's I'm in the middle of promoting this one, and I've had three out in the last year and a half, but it's just there, so I want to do it, and some important songs to me, very important. So
right. Well, if like you said, you got the inspiration now. You got to strike while the iron's hot, right? Something like that. Right, absolutely. All right, well, Chip, it's been a pleasure talking to you. The new disc is called A Song I Can Live With from Chip Taylor, and we wish you luck on it.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks. Nice to talking to you.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head over to iconfetch.com. There, you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who is Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send what you've got to Tony Peters. Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio 45429. Or email Tony at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.